Chapter 33. Correct Usage of the Missing Person. Notice. If not for the fact he could barely control his limbs anymore, Monkey would probably have smacked himself on his lips. He swore to never curse himself inside a haunted house anymore. Separated from his group, stranded with no help, standing in the middle of a darkened corridor, chased by a crazed murderer that could appear at any moment, and haunted by dolls that would be there wherever he turned to look. This kind of hellish haunted house experience made Monkey's breathing unsteady. Why did it appear here? When did it follow me? How can it move? His brain was swamped with endless questions, his composure was brutally shattered, and his hands that held the phone were shaking violently. "Monkey, where are you? Please come save me. I feel like the dolls in the room are looking at me. I swear to God they are." A maddened voice screamed through the phone. Shi Ling's situation was not looking so good either. "Sister, I'll save you. But who is going to save me?" Monkey instinctively took a step back from the source of danger. He felt like something was tugging at his ankle. He turned to look at the doll that was originally a distance away from him was lying beside his shoe. The black hair felt weirdly authentic, and the burned face was turned upwards. The facial features were completely ruined, but it gave a peculiar feeling. It's smiling. Monkey could not explain why this thought would appear in his mind, and honestly, he did not to understand why. The things that he had experienced in the past 10 minutes were about to break his sanity. He bit on his lips and nudged his feet, trying to leave. Perhaps it was fear, or perhaps he had been standing for far too long, but the muscles on his calves shrank, and a shot of pain tore through his heart. "Fuck! Cramps!" Monkey toppled to the ground. He had given up on his dignity. Clutching his legs, he screamed, "Is someone there? I quit! I quit! Help me, please!" Chen Ge and Shu Wan were stuck on the first floor at the time, hauling Lao Song, who was scared dumb, out of the scenario through the workers' passageway when they heard the blood-curdling scream from the third floor. Safety was their first priority, so neither of them dared dawdle and ran up to the third floor. After they entered the corridor, Chen Ge saw Monkey rolling on the floor. He had Xiao Wan retreat, and he walked over to the young man with his flashlight on. "Are you all right?" "I quit. I quit forever. Please let me go." One could say that Monkey was a changed man. Chen Ge did not promise anything but squatted down to press on Monkey's knees. "Exert force and try to straighten your knees." As he helped Monkey ease his pain, Chen Ge glanced around the area. He was confused. Neither Xiao Wan nor myself were even close to this place, so why did this fella get so scared? Other than the two rag dolls on the floor, there was nothing out of place. Thus, Chen Ge asked, "Brother, what spooked you so?" "Do you even need to ask?" Monkey's eyes were red, and like a scorned woman, he grumbled, "These two rag dolls were chasing after me. You were controlling them, weren't you, you sick bastard?" "These two rag dolls were chasing after you?" Chen Ge paused. He did not tell Monkey the truth, lest he scarred the young man's mind forever. "In any case, let me get you out first. Wait, there's another person trapped on this floor. She's gone almost mad. Please save her as well." Monkey took out his phone to contact Shi Ling. When Monkey was not paying attention, Chen Ge picked up both of the dolls and held them in his palm. The dolls were small and could not be called exquisite. They were more like handmade dolls produced in children's arts and crafts classes. These two managed to scare an adult until his leg cramped up. Chen Ge used his finger to poke one of the doll's faces. For some reason, he managed to feel a sense of reluctance from the doll at having her cheek poked, but being powerless to stop it. Interesting. Following Shi Ling's scream for help, Chen Ge and Monkey managed to locate the room she was trapped in and opened the door from the outside. "Don't be scared. We'll get you out now." The girl paid Chen Ge no heed. She was quivering at the corner of the room, her lips quivering as she stammered senselessly, "The dolls are looking at me. No matter where I hide, their eyes keep following me." "More dolls?" Chen Ge looked toward the center of the room where two slightly larger dolls lay side by side. "They were sitting up earlier, I swear." Shi Ling's teary eyes were filled with fear. "I know. They're all parts of the haunted house's tricks." Chen Ge tried consoling the girl before walking to the dolls. One of them had a sewn beard, while the other was wearing an apron over her normal clothes. Based on these details, these two should be the father and mother. He placed the dolls he had picked up earlier on the floor, and the four did look like a family. This matches the number of victims at Ping An Apartments' arson perfectly, and this murder by midnight scenario is inspired by Ping An Apartments. So could these 4 dolls actually represent the actual victims? As that thought entered Chen Ge's mind, he felt the black phone in his pocket vibrate. He pulled it out to take a look. There was new message. Spectres favored. Congratulations for triggering the soul-hidden mission inside the murder by midnight scenario. The spirits still have some unfinished business in the mortal world. Help them fulfill their wish, and they would become helpful allies. Soul-hidden mission. The scenario unlocked by the black phone comes with hidden missions. This was a huge discovery for Chen Ge. The unfinished business of the spirits from Ping An Apartments had to do with Wang Qi. Detaining him so that he would be punished by the law should resolve that business already, no? Chen Ge held Shiling and Monkey as he led them downstairs, but his mind was contemplating the hidden mission. After they exited the workers' passageway, Chen Ge did not return to the scenario immediately, but rushed to the props room alone. He picked out Wang Qi's missing person notice from the bottom of the box. This thing could be useful to the victims. With an idea in his mind, Chen Ge returned to the room on the 3rd floor, where Shiling had been trapped in earlier. As he crossed the threshold, Chen Ge spotted something weird. The 3 dolls that represented the parents and elder sister were lying flatly on the floor, but the smallest doll was lying with her face down near the door like she was in the middle of escaping. Chen Ge picked the doll up, and upon closer inspection, he had this curious sensation that the doll was playing dead, afraid of being discovered. For some reason, instead of feeling scared, he found it quite cute and charming. The victim's spirits are probably inside these dolls. Closing the door behind him, Chen Ge sat down at the middle of the room. In that case, perhaps we can have a little talk. Chapter 34. Goodwill. Chen Ge sat alone in the dark room, talking to himself, while the 4 dolls sat before him. The scene was weird, to say the least. Thankfully, there was no one else there to observe. I don't know how or why you've appeared inside my haunted house, and I'm not sure how to refer to any of you, but there's one thing I can guarantee. I mean none of you any harm. Chen Ge's voice echoed in the room. Looking at the 4 dolls before him, a contradictory feeling rose in his heart. On one hand, he wished there was a response to confirm his suspicion, but on the other, he was afraid that the dolls would suddenly move to do something dangerous. Several seconds later, Chen Ge felt like he was overthinking and decided to switch his way of thinking. The murder by midnight scenario is based off of the arson 4 years ago at Fuan Apartments, and the 4 of you should be the victims of that case. Probably hitting a sore spot, Chen Ge could feel the temperature in the room dropping. The door was suddenly locked behind him, and the furniture around him rattled slightly. But the case has been solved. The madman who ruined your lives and hurt you has been captured and is awaiting the law's judgment. Chen Ge was slightly unhinged by this sudden development. He pulled out his phone to find the morning news on the internet. Look, see? It's on the news, and the person who caught him is me. Chen Ge knew the 4 dolls' unfinished business had plenty to do with Wang Qi, so he wanted to use the video as proof that he was the one who had captured him to placate the dolls. But it was not working as well as he planned. The atmosphere in the room turned increasingly chilly. Chen Ge was panicking, but he had no better idea. The inability to communicate between the 2 parties was his biggest hurdle. The lack of results unsettled Chen Ge, but he did not plan to give up so easily. This haunted house was everything he had. If he allowed the dolls free rein of the place, there would be too many unknown elements. If some huge accidents happened in the future, he would lose everything. Calm down. I'm here to help. The dolls were not paying Chen Ge any attention. No matter how loud he screamed, it was pointless. I guess this is my final option. Chen Ge pulled out Wang Qi's missing person notice from his pocket. The yellowed piece of paper was dirtied with some bloodstains, but beyond that there was nothing particularly special about it. However, weirdly enough, when Chen Ge pulled out the notice, the noisiness in the room settled, and the atmosphere was not as intense as before. It was as if the hands that were strangling his neck were slowly relaxing. All you wanted was this. The effect of the notice was better than Chen Ge expected. He placed the paper in the middle of the 4 dolls, and when the dolls' bodies touched the yellowed paper, the missing person notice started to struggle, like it was fluttering in a raging wind. The scene that happened before his eyes were definitely inexplicable. The room did not have any draft, but the notice and the 4 dolls were swaying like crazy. Chen Ge studied this closely. Several minutes later, a human face seemed to appear on the missing person notice. It looked suspiciously like Wang Qi. Before Chen Ge could take a closer look, the notice was torn apart. The pieces snuck into all 4 of the dolls' bodies, and the room returned to its usual quietness. That's all? The black phone in his pocket vibrated. Chen Ge took it out to find a new message. You've completed the hidden mission inside the Murder by Midnight scenario. Increase the affection of specters by 1. Obtain the goodwill of the victim's lingering spirits from Ping An apartment. They will help you clean up all the trash every day to keep the Murder by Midnight scenario at its peak. Looking at the message on the phone, Chen Ge stood where he was for a long time before he said to no one in particular, "And that completes the sole hidden mission?" His mind tried to collate all the information he had gathered so far. Finishing a trial mission with a completion rate higher than 90% will reward me a hidden item, and the hidden item will be the key to completing the scenario's hidden mission. In other words, if I want to have complete mastery of the unlocked scenarios of the haunted house in the future, I'll need to finish the respective trial mission with a more than 90% completion rate. Thinking back, if he had just survived the night at Ping An apartment without being a busybody, he would have completed the trial mission as well, but he wouldn't have gotten the hidden item. This thing is evil. This kind of setup is just asking the player to walk into as many traps as he can. Chen Ge searched through the black phone, attempting to figure out more information. The first thing he clicked was the My Team of Ghosts and Ghouls tab, and to his disappointment, it was still empty. The mission notice states that I've gained the goodwill of the victim's lingering spirit from Ping An apartment, but there's no update to the window. Is it because they haven't agreed to help me completely, or can lingering spirits not be counted as ghosts, nor ghouls, so they don't show up on the list? Chen Ge had no clue. He clicked into the My Item storage and realized Wang Qi's missing person notice was still there, but the malice points attached to it were now 0. What are these malice points? And why did the lingering spirits tear it up to feed on it? The door to the hidden world was slowly opening. Chen Ge had no clue whether this information was useful or not, but he committed it all to memory. He rubbed the sweat on his forehead and stood up from the floor. Even though I couldn't communicate with the lingering spirits, they'll help clean up the scenario. Conclusively speaking, it's still more advantages than disadvantages. Maintaining the scenario was a troublesome and tiring thing, and the appearance of the lingering spirits saved Chen Ge plenty of time, money, and effort. Looking at the 4 dolls on the floor, the last vestige of fear in Chen Ge's heart slowly disappeared. Hiring the ghosts to help out at my haunted house isn't such a ridiculous idea after all. He walked to the door and turned around with concern. The dolls that represented the parents and the sister were sitting where they were, but the smallest doll was collapsed on the floor, leaning on her side. She was acting secretively, like she was preparing to sneak out again. Chen Ge sighed looking at this, and he realized not all ghosts in the world were evil and cruel. For example, this smallest doll was like a kitten that was curious about the world, easily intrigued but a coward at her core. "Little girl, stop running about. Be careful or you'll get stepped on." Chen Ge left after that. After helping the lingering spirits from Ping An apartments with their wish, he had a deeper understanding of the black phone. The unlockable scenarios on the phone probably aren't just to help me scare people. Each scenario has its own story and plot with its own reason and development. In a way, unlocking the scenarios is helping these homeless souls find a place to call home. After turning off the flashlight, Chen Ge walked down the darkened corridor alone. After he was far enough gone, ensuring no human or ghost could hear him anymore, his lips curved involuntarily upwards to reveal a fox-like grin. These are natural experts at scaring people, and they don't need salary, won't complain about tiredness, or act out of emotions. They are the perfect employees. With a bright future awaiting him, Chen Ge felt re-energized and was ready to scare the shit out of his hapless victims. It has dragged on for too long already. It's time to end this. There are 3 people left inside the haunted house. Let me think. Who shall be my first victim? Chapter 35. Shattered Mirror. Why is it suddenly so quiet? He-san turned to look at Lao Zhao. Shall we go take a look? If our enemies don't move, we don't move. We'll go out when we hear screams and start the investigation in the opposite direction. This way we'll avoid the scary traps, Lao Zhao said shamelessly. Isn't that selling out our classmates? No, that is appreciating their noble sacrifice. We'll be using the time they give us to find the exit and achieve victory. Lao Zhao was as round as a ball. He stood behind He-san, but the young man's small figure could barely cover up half of Lao Zhao's body. Then, how long should we hide in here? What if we're the only 2 left in the haunted house? He-san turned to look at his senior behind him. For some reason, he felt his senior was merely using him as a human shield. We've checked all the rooms on the 2nd floor and most of the rooms on the 3rd floor, so the exit has to be on the 1st floor. In other words, we're inches away from victory. Lao Zhao patted He-san encouragingly on his shoulder. Chin up! Don't give up now when we're at the gate of victory. Even at a time like this, you're still calm enough to feed me such crap? He-san pouted. He had many grievances to voice, but he did not know how to. He was supposed to only lead his seniors to New Century Park, so why was he there inside the haunted house? Don't be so pessimistic, Lao Zhao counted on his fingers. We heard Monkey and Xiaohui's screams earlier, so both of them have probably been let out of this place already. Minus the 8th person, we still have 5 students from our school inside this haunted house. The probability of the murderer hunting us is 2 in 5, which is smaller than 3 in 5, so don't worry. We'll only need to wait. All right, we'll do it your way. Squatting at the door, He-san leaned to peer out the crack. He felt like there was an additional something in the darkened corridor. He rubbed his eyes and took a closer look in the same direction. There was a worn rag doll lying on the floor. What's wrong with my eyes? Was there a doll on the floor to begin with? But that's impossible. During the 10 minutes I've hiding here, I've kept my eyes on the corridor outside. He-san slapped himself lightly on the cheeks before turning to look out of the crack again. The doll was still there, but it had moved closer to the door. It can move on its own. Am I imagining things from nervousness? He-san shook his head before peering out the crack again. This time, the doll had disappeared. This is weird. At the 1st floor's workers' passageway, Chen Ge put on the Dr. Skullcracker's garb after he had Zhu Wan leave to take care of the few students outside. He was going to catch the rest personally, wearing the blood-soaked doctor's coat, curling the iron chains that were carved with human faces on his body, gripping the hammer, and putting on the human skin mask. Be it from height or presence, Chen Ge's Dr. Skullcracker was more intimidating than Xiao Wan's. These youths want to fight an extended battle with me? The chains clinked viciously with his every step. It might have sounded eerie, but the greatest weakness was that it would give his location away. Chen Ge roamed the scenario for about 5 minutes, but could not find anyone. Boss, I can't spot them on the cameras. They should be hiding inside the many rooms. You'll need to check them one by one. Zhu Wan's voice came into his ear. Speaking of which, I suggest we install surveillance camera in every corner of the haunted house. Now, with only cameras on the intersecting corridors, there are too many blind spots. We'll think about that when we have the money. Chen Ge used his mallet to push the door of each room open. When he reached a corner on the 2nd floor, he spotted a doll leaning against one of the doors. Little girl, why are you here, leaning against this room door for no reason? Chen Ge scratched his chin with the mallet, and the truth soon dawned on him. I know. You're telling me there's someone hiding inside this room, right? Pretending like he did not notice anything, Chen Ge walked away from the door. When he was about 10 meters away, Chen Ge picked up the chains that dragged along the floor and leaned against wall to silently move toward the door. Utilizing the blind spot, he half squatted and peered in through the crack of the door. Inside the room, He-san and Lao Zhao were squeezed behind the door with their palms over their mouths. The sound of chains has disappeared. The murderer should have wandered off already. Lao Zhao's face was pale beyond belief, but he made sure his tone sounded calm to maintain his dignity as the senior. Actually, I'm not one bit scared. Based on my analysis, since the murderer just came up from the first floor, he won't be returning to it anytime soon. This is our chance. He used plenty of energy to push himself off the floor. Now is the perfect time for us to go to the first floor. We'll be able to avoid the killer and achieve victory. Xiao-san, you take a look out the door. If the murderer has wandered off already, we'll move out instantly. He-san felt like Lao Zhao was making some sense. He did not argue and leaned against the door to look out the crack. He felt something like warm breath blowing on his face. What He-san saw this time was different from before. There was no darkened corridor or creepy doll, but bloodshot eyes staring back at him from the other side of the crack. What the fuck? He-san felt like his soul almost left his body. He collapsed to the floor dramatically and shuffled away from the door. This spooked Lao Zhao as well. What? What did you see? The answer that Lao Zhao got was the doorknob being twisted open. The old door was slowly pushed open, and a bloodied shadow radiating evil and resentment hovered at the door. Seeing this, Lao Zhao kept retreating even though his back was already firmly pressed to the wall. You shouldn't lean so hard against the wall. What if there's someone inside it? Chen Ge silently poked his hand into the pocket and pressed the prop option that was available on the black phone. Lao Zhao was so scared that his fatty body was shaking all over. Before he understood what Chen Ge meant by that sentence, something suddenly poked into his back. He turned to look back over his shoulder instinctively, and the wallpaper behind him had opened on both sides to reveal an expressionless woman who was embedded inside the wall. His brain went blank, and something akin to his breath left Lao Zhao's body. He fell to the floor butt first, and his eyes rolled back in his head. Your experience is now officially over. Let me get you out. As Chen Ge said so, there was suddenly the sound of a mirror shattering coming from the third floor, which was closely followed by Brother Feng's scream. Shh! Chen Ge called for Xiao Wan to come get He-san and Lao Zhao while he raced upstairs. Following the voice, Chen Ge found Brother Feng inside one of the rooms, waving a wooden chair before him like he was in the middle of fighting some unknown force. He pulled down his mask and waited until Brother Feng tired himself out and slid to the floor before he walked into the room. What happened? Chen Ge gingerly pulled the wooden chair away from Brother Feng and tossed it to the side. Brother Feng was in a highly unstable state. His eyes were filled with such fear that Chen Ge worried the young man was going into shock. Did you come across some weird things? Chapter 36. Danger. Several seconds later, after Brother Feng caught his breath, he raised his finger and pointed toward the toilet weakly. Mirror. The word, which could not have been more common, caused Chen Ge's expression to shift. After placing Brother Feng on the bed, he walked into the toilet. The mirror on the wall had been shattered, and the glass pieces littered the floor. Earlier, after He-san's fainting incident, Chen Ge had used black cloth to cover up all the mirrors in the haunted house. There had been no accident since then, and with the unlocking of a new scenario, he should have been more alert. But he had not been. He was partly responsible for this accident. For any entertainment establishment, once it was labeled with the rumor of being a safety hazard, business would definitely be difficult, and Chen Ge was acutely aware of that scary fact. He picked up one of the pieces of the floor, and looking at his reflection inside it, he promised, I need to deal with this thing as soon as possible. Like human beings, ghosts also had the separation of good and evil. The monster in the mirror was definitely evil. Chen Ge was sure of that. It was naturally aggressive and was probably hiding some horrible secret. He-san's fainting spell and Brother Feng's incident raised the alarm within Chen Ge, making him feel pressured. Covering the mirrors with black cloth was not a permanent solution. The thing inside the mirror was fast becoming a blockage for the haunted house's expansion. Other than the broken mirror, there was nothing else out of place inside the toilet. Chen Ge took a cursory look of the room before leaving. With the hammer in his grip, he sat down beside Brother Feng. Do you mind telling what happened earlier? After a few minutes of rest, Brother Feng's breathing finally stabilized. However, his face was still startlingly pale. I don't think I'll be to explain it. No worries. Just tell me whatever you remember. Chen Ge studied Brother Feng quietly. This young man was different from He-san, who fainted directly. His mental tolerance was obviously higher than He-san's, an observation supported by the fact that at least he showed resistance. Brother Feng tried to sit up in bed, the fear still circling in his eyes. At the time, I was chased by one of your workers, so I ran into this room to hide. Initially, everything was fine, but later, I started to hear someone calling my name. Someone was calling your actual name? It's not that. It's more like I felt like I was being summoned. Brother Feng scratched his head. The source of the sound was inside this room, and it took me a long time before I was able to find the source. At this point, the fear in his eyes deepened. The voice came from the mirror inside the toilet. It was saying something, but I couldn't really understand it. All I know is it had something to do with me. And then, Chen Ge memorized every word that came out of Brother Feng's lips. This would be valuable information when he dealt with the mirror monster. And then I stood in front of the mirror, trying to understand what was really happening. I tried to remove the mirror from the wall, but when my hands touched it, the voice beside my ears suddenly picked up. My consciousness started to waver, and for some reason, the reflection of myself in the mirror started to shift. Brother Feng's eyes kept glancing at the toilet, afraid that some monster might jump out of it at any moment. I stood in front of the mirror, but the reflection in the mirror wasn't me. Normally, I would be afraid, but what happened next still sends shivers down my spine when I think of it. What happened? Brother Feng said seriously. At the time, I didn't feel any fear or apprehension. It was like everything couldn't have been more normal. I started to lean toward the mirror, and when my face was close to the surface, I could see the face of the other me also leaning close. The face that stared at me was mine, but for some reason, it felt very unfamiliar. If you want me to point out why, I can't really tell you, but it's just a feeling that the face that stared back at me wasn't mine. Out of the corner of my eyes, I could see my hands rising even though my brain didn't register such a command. My hands pressed against the surface of the mirror like I was trying to crawl into it, or that's not right. It felt more like I was trapped inside the mirror and I was trying to crawl out of it. During the nightmare mission, Chen Ge had gone through the same thing. Looking through the recording on his video, his body was indeed slowly leaning against the mirror. Then, how did you remove yourself from this situation? It's also thanks to the mirror. This answer surprised Chen Ge. At the time, it really felt like my body was no longer under my control until I saw a ragdoll lying behind me through the reflection inside the mirror. A ragdoll? Yes. Similar to the dolls I saw lying around the other rooms. It's the size of an open palm and had a sewn beard on its face. Brother Feng used his hands to measure out the size for Chen Ge. The sudden appearance of the doll caused my brain to scream with alarm, and fear spread through my body like wildfire. There was only one thought on my mind then: escape. However, the body refused to listen to my command. The mind and the body started fighting. Brother Feng described it in a placid tone, but Chen Ge could imagine how dangerous it was. After that, I heard He-san's scream coming up from the second floor. That seemed to do the trick and break the spell. The fear in Brother Feng's eyes had dissipated slightly. I was so scared that my first instinct was to grab the nearest wooden chair to swing at the mirror. Your haunted house is so scary and atmospheric that I completely forgot I was inside a park attraction. At this point, Brother Feng suddenly remembered something and smiled apologetically at Chen Ge. Everything I told you is the truth. There's no exaggeration or anything. I will pay the replacement fee for the mirror in full. That won't be necessary. I'm just glad that you're safe. Chen Ge stood up, and his eyes wandered about the room. By the way, where is the doll that you saw now? Brother Feng hesitated before answering. I seem to remember kicking it under the bed. That's also part of your props, right? I'm sorry. Chen Ge squatted down and pulled out the doll with a dusty footprint on it out from under the bed. He patted the dust off its body and said, You should thank this doll. It was he who saved you. The doll saved me? If you say so. Thank you. So can I go now? Brother Feng inched subconsciously backward, and his face paled considerably. He could feel the odd presence surrounding this haunted house's proprietor, but since Chen Ge did come to save him, he forced out a polite thank you. If I told you that everything that you experienced earlier wasn't part of the haunted house's props or special effects and was all real, would you believe me? Wearing the blood-soaked outfit, cradling the tattered doll, Chen Ge tilted his head to the side as he posed this question to the young man. The poor Brother Feng, who was about 190 centimeters tall, was curled up like a little girl at the corner of the bed and answered with a tone laced with helplessness. I don't know. You tell me. Should I believe it or not? Chapter 37. Expansion. Brother Feng curled up even more. Looking at Chen Ge, who stood in the middle of the room, he could envision the man killing people and cutting up body parts just to add to the authenticity of his haunted house. He started to fear for his life. Look at you, all serious. I'm just kidding. Chen Ge was quite disappointed. He asked that question because he spotted something unique in Brother Feng. With a little push from the doll, Brother Feng managed to break free from the mirror monster's control and even fought back. His constitution was stronger than most and could have been a valuable ally. This was what Chen Ge admired about the young man. If possible, Chen Ge wished to befriend him and asked for his help to deal with supernatural events like the spirit inside the mirror. That was Chen Ge's intention. Alas, Brother Feng was far too distraught to catch the hidden meaning. Looks like I can only depend on myself, Chen Ge thought to himself as he locked the door to the murder-by-midnight scenario. When he helped Brother Feng go down the stairs, the black phone in his pocket vibrated. Chen Ge jumped from shock. He quickly pulled out the phone, afraid that it might be some bad news. Number of monthly visitors surpassed 100. Reputation is now 60% positive. Congratulations for fulfilling the rules for expansion. Warning. Each expansion of the haunted house will award you with a mysterious reward. After 3 expansions, the haunted house will upgrade to a maze of terror. I can expand so soon. Expansion was a good thing, but temporarily, that was not part of Chen Ge's plan. The most crucial thing was still removing the stuff inside the mirror. After exiting the haunted house, the sun shone gloriously on the steps. The students from Zhejiang Medical University were collectively collapsed in front of the haunted house. They were either holding their heads in their palms or hugging their legs. Some had tears staining their makeup, while others looked aimlessly up at the sky. The occasional twitching on their faces was the only sign that they were still alive for some. Chen Ge felt a sense of déjà vu. However, the devastation this time was much greater than before. In just a mere 40 minutes, the group of spirited youths had experienced such a drastic change. It was near miraculous. The surrounding visitors were mumbling and pointing among themselves, but Chen Ge did not think too much of it. After all, if it wasn't exciting, how could it be called a house of horrors? He dropped Brother Feng to the ground, completing the collection. The whole happy family was finally together again. Xiao Chen, come here. The gathering crowd once again attracted Uncle Shu's attention. The middle-aged man had on an expression that said, "What am I going to do with you?" when he saw Chen Ge. Explain yourself. What is it this time? You already scared someone until he fainted last time, and this time you toppled 7 in one go. Are you that insistent on getting our park on the headlines? Chen Ge's eyes darted around, and he coughed dryly. They came to experience the haunted house, and what I did was present to them the best service, so how is this my fault? Furthermore, I can promise I had 0 physical contact with them, which you can check on the security footage. Everything is all within the required rules of operating a haunted house. Stop acting dumb. If that's the case, how do you explain the bump on the back of her head? Uncle Shu surreptitiously pointed at the back of Xiaohui's head, afraid that he might accidentally scare the poor girl, and he kept his voice to a whisper. Uncle Shu, I swear I'm completely innocent on that count. I was running ahead and she pulled on my shirt as she ran behind me. I crawled into the cupboard to hide, and she wanted to follow me. All I did was lie there quietly. It was she who turned on the flashlight to shine on me. It almost blinded my eyes, but before I could say anything, she knocked herself on the wall of the cupboard. See, I'm also a victim here. Chen Ge described the truth with only a slight variation. In other words, you're the one who has suffered? Isn't that obvious? Stop treating this like such a joke. Be more careful and attentive in future, and make sure this doesn't happen again. Uncle Shu advised him with a sigh. What if you cause an accident? Or your client happens to be someone unreasonable? It'll greatly influence your haunted house's future. I know. Is there any more kind advice? Chen Ge didn't directly retort, but he grumbled internally. If there is really someone unreasonable, I'll just give them the love letter. We'll see who's more unreasonable then. Uncle Shu stared at Chen Ge and knew perfectly well that his words would not be heeded. He sighed to himself and continued several seconds later. Xiao Chen, I know it's not required for you to listen to me, but certain things have to be said now that your parents are no longer here. I'm listening. This morning, Xu Wan said you were on television, claiming that the key witness who helped solve the arson case 4 years ago is you. Uncle Shu did not look one bit happy. Yes. Why would you go to a haunted house late at night? Do you know how dangerous that is? Those are murderers. Uncle Shu did not leave Chen Ge any openings to counter. If you're in need of money, there are many other methods rather than going for this reward money. I can help you cover the utility bills you owe the park management for now. You're still young. Be careful not to stray from the righteous path. Don't worry, Uncle Shu, I know what I'm doing. I hope so. In that case, if there's nothing else, I'll be leaving. Quickly get those people off the floor. It reflects badly on the park, letting them lie like that on the floor. As Uncle Shu turned to leave, Chen Ge stopped him. What's wrong? Uncle Shu, I really do have a favor to ask, Chen Ge said shyly. Can you please lend me 5,000 RMB? I plan to install cameras in every corner of the haunted house. I'll pay you back when the reward money arrives. After He San and Brother Feng's accidents, Chen Ge was indeed worried. There were too many blind spots inside the haunted house. You still want to invest in the haunted house? Uncle Shu stopped moving. Xiao Chen, I can lend you the money, but I'll be honest with you, this park of ours is on its last legs. Investing here is no different from throwing money into the sea. He led Chen Ge to a shaded area before explaining. This park has been around for 11 years already. Its main attractions are all outdated. Nowadays, people want virtual reality, fashion, and creativity. We're none of those things. To put it simply, we're at the edge of being filtered out. Other than the haunted house, the number of visitors for every single attraction in the park is on a steady decline. I know that. Chen Ge had already planned to work on his haunted house, and increasing security was a definite first step. What do you know? Uncle Shu turned off the walkie-talkie. Eastern Zhujiang's virtual reality futuristic carnival is close to its completion date. It will be one of the few fourth-gen amusement parks we have in this country. When it's open, it'll naturally become the go-to attraction of the city. Tell me, how are we going to compete with that? Now, every member of the park, from the highest management to the lowest cleaners, are slowing down as they figure out a way out for themselves. You're the only one left dumb enough to keep charging ahead.